Hello everyone, it's Liz with Love here. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. Today we are building a really cool build which I was really excited to get into, and it's like a little village country cottage. I love how this turned out, but it took quite a while, so this video is a bit longer than what I'm used to. So just a disclaimer, if this voiceover is a little awkward because it's almost half an hour long, I'm sorry. I'm not used to recording 30-minute voiceovers. But anyways, let's get into it. So this build is built in Windenburg because my very good friend Susie got me get together as a surprise a couple days ago, which I was so surprised and so grateful. And the first thing that I did is I went into build mode and I built this. Now, it actually took me 2 days to build this, but yeah, that's the first thing I did as soon as I get together. And I was so excited to get this pack for a long time. So this build has been in my mind for quite a while, and it's a little inspired by my family's cottage in the woods back home in the Czech Republic, but it's visually very different, but the concept is inspired by that. So I wanted to have this taller building, 2-story, on a little hill, and then as you walk down the stairs from there is a little outdoor kitchen which is sort of sunk into the ground, so you have to go down another set of stairs. Now, I do love building with some terrain editing, and I think it's fun to be able to mold the landscape to your desires, but sometimes placing plants and things like that is kind of tricky. So some parts of this build, but mostly landscaping parts, I did cut out precisely for this reason, that it was just me trying to place a plant and it not placing properly. So there's some bits that I did cut out, otherwise this video would be too long and too boring to watch. Anyways, so this cottage is made for 2 adults and a kid, and the kid is probably a boy. I don't want to stereotype, but it looks pretty much like a boy's bedroom, or like a girl who's into things like cars and the color blue. I usually do not make my kids' rooms in any builds gender specific. I try to keep them quite neutral so that when somebody downloads it, they can, put a girl or a boy there and it doesn't matter. And usually I go for a green and yellow color palette, but here I did go for blue and orange, and I added a bunch of cars and toys around the house as well, so that it looks like the kid doesn't just live in the kids' room, but he actually, plays around in the whole house or in the garden as well. And there you can see where I sunk the little outdoor kitchen into the ground, which I wasn't originally planning on doing that, but I think it looks really good and it reminds me of something, and I don't know what. I know I've seen this somewhere, a little gazebo that you have to go down the stairs to get into, but then on the other side you can walk straight out because it's flat there. I don't know, I've seen it somewhere and it just reminds me of something so much, but I can't tell you where I saw this. So the plan was to add a little pond in the front as well that you could swim in, because in Get Together, there's the little diving boards, the natural diving boards, so I wanted to work that in as well. And originally I thought of adding a little long pool pond kind of thing along the front, but then I realized that would be so impractical and it would just look weird because it would just be one thin noodle of a pond. So then I just added this little one on the side, and I terrain painted some paths, which is one of the first things I always do with my builds. I terrain paint the paths so that I know what I'm working with and things like that. And I started adding some plants to the little pond, to make it look a little more overgrown and less like a pool, which it actually is. And I was playing around a lot with the different items that came in Get Together because I was just so excited to finally play with it. And I added some wall plants to the build as well, because so far the only wall plants I could use before were Jungle Adventure, and I had only gotten that pack a month ago. So using wall plants is still very new to me because I only recently got the packs that have wall plants. And for trees, this was a little tricky because even the trees, when you put them on a slope, they just sometimes float, which is the most annoying thing ever. There's quite a big part of putting down trees that I ended up cutting out, which will be later on, just because I was struggling so much with, making the trees not float. And I'm adding a bunch of debug stuff around the pond, and technically there's not like an area where you can get out the pond, but the debug objects, your Sims will just ignore them. So, these rock kind of things, the long rocks along the side of the pond, your Sims will just ignore them and climb through them. So technically there's like visibly not a spot where you can get out of the little pond, but physically your Sims can get out. And I just added a few more wall plants to the sides of the build because, as I said, I'm kind of obsessed with wall plants now. And I added little planter boxes, and what annoys me a little about these planter boxes from Get Together is that some of the swatches have really weird plant colors. Like, I wanted a swatch that would match the wood on the build, but that one only has blue flowers. And I don't think you would have blue flowers in a build like this. So that's why I'm going to swap it later on and change it for something more natural looking, more, cottage-like. And I love those little plants that you can add on the side of pools because they are so realistic and they make it so much easier when you are trying to blend in a pool as a natural pond. And just a tip, guys, if you are trying to blend in a pool as a natural pond, just use a bunch of rocks. That just does the job really well. You can place them on the bottom, on the sides. It just makes it look so much better. And you can't even tell that it's a pool by the end of it. And again, here we get to the part where I just lay down a bunch of plants, and I'm gonna cut out quite a bit of that. As you can see, just like a bunch of plants now appear that weren't there before because I cut out a part. It seemed a little redundant for you to watch me just put down plants around the pond for hours and hours and hours. But I did want to keep a fair bit just so you guys can get inspired a little bit by landscaping, because I found that quite a bit of YouTubers don't really put landscaping in their builds. Like, they just say, oh yeah, and then I landscaped it, but they don't put the landscaping footage in, which annoys me because when I started watching building videos on YouTube, so many people just said, oh yeah, I did the landscaping, here's the finished product. And I'm like, but I want to see the landscaping, that's the part that I struggle with. And for the longest time, all my builds were just a house and one tree in the back, and I couldn't do any landscaping. So I don't want to be that person that just says, oh yeah, and I did some landscaping, and then skips it. Because I think that it can actually be very beneficial for a viewer to watch the landscaping and see what I'm doing and maybe learn something new. I don't know, maybe. So yeah, let's talk a bit more about this actual build, like who lives there. I plan on using this build for a playthrough, which will potentially be a Let's Play that I'm planning, and it will be just like a big whole city Let's Play. So I'm gonna be playing for every family in the world, or maybe not like every family, but I'm gonna have a bunch of families that live in Windenburg, and I'm gonna play with, I don't know, 7 or 8 of them, and I'm gonna switch between them, and it's gonna be like a whole drama kind of Let's Play. If you have ever seen Deligracy's Hampton Falls, that's kind of my inspiration. If you haven't, go watch Deligracy's Hampton Falls. It's one of the best Let's Plays that I have ever watched. Anyways, in this sort of game save Let's Play kind of thing, I do plan on having a family that is kind of, living on the countryside. They don't really care that much about the drama, but they still do get pulled into it. And so I was thinking, this is the house of that family, They would be living on like the outskirts in the country part of Windenburg, and they would just like not really want to get involved with the people, but they still would, because I don't know, maybe their kid would be friends with the kids of the people who are responsible for the drama and things like that. I don't have that much of a story for them yet, because usually, you guys know, when I build, I come up with a full story for the family that lives there, like crazy details. This time it's more of like an outline of what the family could be, because I plan on using this in a future Let's Play. And generally I do plan on playing with some of the families that I make for my builds. Like a couple videos ago, I posted a video of building a tiny farmhouse with a little family that I made as well. So I do plan on playing with them for some time and things like that. So when I build, I really build from a story perspective, not from like a what looks good perspective. And I try to come up with reasons for why a certain thing is in the build and things like that. So maybe that's a tip for those of you who are trying to get into building but are very story focused in The Sims. Do try and come up with stories for your builds, and it's gonna make it so much more entertaining to build. I know it definitely has made it so much more fun for me. And especially if you record your videos on YouTube and things like that, having a story for the build also gives you a plenty to talk about, so that you're not just sitting there like, oh yeah, there I am, placing a plant, because yeah, I hate when I don't have something to say in a voiceover. And I recently got a piece of feedback saying that I speak too fast in my voiceovers, which was so surprising to me, because I feel like I speak too slow. I feel like I should be speaking so much faster. So you guys can let me know, do you think I speak too fast, too slow? Do I speak all right? And let's just get back into what I'm doing in the build, alright? And now I'm moving on to the outdoor kitchen. And lately I've been adding outdoor kitchens to so many of my builds. I think you guys may have noticed. But yeah, this is very much inspired by my family's cottage, because we have an outdoor kitchen. So I wanted to kind of simulate that and add one here as well. And firstly I thought maybe I would just like make it like a little lounge area, but the outdoor kitchen I think really turned out really well. And I added some monkey bars as well for the kiddo living here. Don't forget guys, anytime you add monkey bars, add like the little dirt patches under it, because that makes it look so much better, so much more realistic. And now I'm just adding some clutter to the outdoor kitchen, and I did cut out quite a bit of footage of me adding clutter here, because I don't know what I was doing, but my camera was all around the place, like you can see in the couple of seconds that you just saw of me placing down clutter there. The camera was just weird. I don't know what I was doing. I don't know guys, sorry. But now I'm moving on to the actual inside of the build, and we are about halfway through the video at this point. So I started with the little kitchen. I thought I would use the Parenthood counters, but then I switched them to the Jungle Adventure ones. And I have been using the Jungle Adventure counters so much lately. I think half of my builds lately have Jungle Adventure counters. And I added the little barrel bin, which you wouldn't say I use it so much, but I use it a lot in my builds, because it doesn't look like a bin, and it looks just like a piece of decor or something like that. And it makes it look so much better. And of course I added the wood stove here, because hello, this is a this is a cottage kind of thing, you know, you would definitely have a wood stove in a cottage. And some more clutter, yeah, I added some debug bills as well. That's a good kind of thing that you can add to your builds, not your bills, your builds. There you can see where my English just gets broken, because I've been speaking for too long. Yeah, so just the builds, a little couple of books, and I love adding those seasons blankets to my build as well, because I'm a blanket kind of person. I always sit around wrapped in a blanket. And I love also using those tiny living shelves. I think they're so good looking. Can you call a shelf good looking? I don't know. As I said, my English is just like not functioning at this point, because I also recorded another voiceover before I recorded this one. and I've been speaking to myself, or like to my microphone, to my earphones microphone. Come on, let's not lie to ourselves. I don't have a proper microphone. And I've been speaking to it for like 45 minutes at this point, and I feel like I'm kind of going crazy. Anyways, am I the only one who always kind of struggles with picking a table and some chairs for your builds? Because I always take so long picking those, and then I generally just go for the same ones every single time. I use those cats and dogs chairs so much in so many of my builds, especially when they're like cottage-like, village-like, and I build a lot of builds like that, so I basically don't build modern. I should challenge myself to build something modern, but I just don't. And I added a couple of these envelopes as playing cards. You know, I use them a lot instead of playing cards, so that they look like clutter that's just been left on the table and it doesn't look as empty. I was gonna go for the wilder sofas in the living room, but then I thought, maybe not. It's too hippie for this build, you know. I did want to add a touch of hippie, but not too much hippie. So I added these base game sofas, which again, they are quite my go-to in little cottages and things like that. And I added a little TV that I kind of tilted to the side, and some plants as well, because you can't have a Loose with Love build without some plants. And for the curtains, I couldn't find anything, so then I just decided to size down the Seasons curtains, and I think it actually worked pretty well, besides this front window, which I actually ended up changing for a different one, which it does look better when I changed the window. But yeah, with curtains in The Sims, it's sometimes a bit of a long time to figure out what to do so that it looks good, you know. And I added 2 layered carpets here because, not carpets, rugs. The thing is, like, most people would say, why do you keep confusing carpets and rugs? It's a different thing. But I'm Czech, and Czech is my first language, and in Czech we have the same word for a rug and for a carpet. So if I ever say rug instead of carpet and carpets instead of rug, that's why, because in my mother language we just don't distinguish between the two. Anyways, I added some layered rugs and I love using this stool from Jungle Adventure as a table. You guys must have noticed, it's in so many of my builds. The only issue is that you kind of have to raise the objects and hope that they won't float above it. I mean, of course I could be using the red shelf mod for that, but it's just mods in my game don't really work that well. I'm playing on a laptop, so a lot of mods usually make my game crash, and now I just decided to disable all the mods recently, and it's been so much better. So I have kind of just been playing without mods at all, and I do miss them, but I don't miss the game crashing, so like I don't miss them. And for the bathroom, I added the Jungle Adventure tile. I'm using quite a lot of Jungle Adventure things in this build, and that's basically the bathroom done here. I did that quite quickly, and I wanted to add like a bit of living space in the kitchen as well, because I had that space there, and I didn't think that this family would have like any office space in their house. I think they are quite they're not that much about the work hustle. They're more about the communal space and being together, and if they need to do some work, they'll just do it in the kitchen or something like that, but they don't need like a work area. And I added some dog treats, and then I realized I don't have a dog bed or dog bowls in this build, so I'm gonna go on to add some dog bowls and a dog bed later on. And I added some crates and some boxes under the stairs. I love doing that whenever I have stairs in my build. It just seems so realistic. It makes it look less empty. And now you can see me actually add the little pet bowls and a little pet bed, which I ended up putting the pet bed in the living room, not the bedrooms upstairs. So maybe they have like a smaller dog. They don't want the dog to be running up the stairs all the time. I don't know, maybe. and I added some of the movie hangout items over here in this corner, specifically that like little folding table and the little wicker sofa kind of thing, and I think it looks really good in this build with the tamer swatches, the swatches that are not as wild. And to be fair, I do prefer those swatches because even though I really enjoy like a colorful pop in builds, I myself actually prefer much more neutral furniture. So I really do prefer those more neutral swatches, but with those patterns and that style of movie hangout. And yeah, just adding some clutter. It's been 20 minutes of me doing voiceover, guys, so if I repeat just adding some clutter for like the 20th time, excuse me. But I don't like to put up builds with just music. I like to do my voiceovers for the whole build. It just feels like I'm able to walk you through it so much easier. And as I was moving on upstairs in this build, for some reason when I placed the lights, they didn't light up until I made it night. So I had to transition into a night for the lights to actually turn on. But yeah, it's working now, and I'm adding some little size down plants and the bunny statue and some pictures on the walls there in the hallway. I do struggle with hallways quite a bit, especially when they're small, because I have the tendency to always clutter spaces up in The Sims so they don't look empty. But with hallways, you need space to pass through them, and that's where I struggle. And I really adore this chair from Cats and Dogs with the little blanket over the top. I think it's really adorable, and it's such a country cottage kind of feel, and it suits this build really well. And as well as this bed, which I think it's also Cats and Dogs. I did use quite a lot of Cats and Dogs items on the inside, so this build is mostly Cats and Dogs, Jungle Adventure, and of course Get Together, because that's the new one that I was kind of experimenting with in this build. If you want to download this, that's the top 3 packs that I'm using. So if you don't have any other pack, it's not going to be as much trouble as it is going to be if you don't have one of the packs that I'm using basically everywhere. So I just wanted to let you guys know that. It is, of course, up on my gallery if you want to download it, but the gallery picture looks awful. Like from the gallery picture, it looks nothing like it looks in my screenshots, because, well, basically a tree covers the whole build and all you can see is like a little bit of the outdoor dining kind of kitchen area, and that's it. I really wish we could upload our own screenshots to the gallery. It would make it so much easier and it would look so much better. Anyways, of course this bedroom had to have a bunch of plants. I'm thinking the parents who live here are quite traditional. They like their own peace and quiet. They have quite a traditional bedroom. They are not really into much modern stuff. So I think that I added like a guitar, so maybe one of them is musical, one of them is really into plants, which, I mean, if you live in this house, you must be into plants, because to water them all, even technically, you don't have to water any of them, you know, it's not The Sims 1. But if you had to water all the plants that I placed in this build, you would have to be quite a plant enthusiast not to get sick of it. And now moving on to the kids' bedroom, which, oh yeah, I used a lot of kids' room stuff as well in this build, which I used basically, yeah, the whole kids' bedroom is basically just kids' room stuff, because that's another one that I recently started using a lot, because it's got so many good items. I think it's like my number 3 top pack, I want to say, because some of the things, like this wardrobe, are so versatile, and you don't just have to use them in kids' bedrooms. You can totally use them in an adult's bedroom because they have a swatch without the pictures. I love items like that, and I think that's such a good pack. So if that's not on your wish list, it should be. And yeah, of course I added some toys, and I was struggling for quite a bit with what image or like a poster kind of thing to place on that wall behind the bed, because it looked very big and bare. And then I kind of just decided to place the little kids art kind of crafts that are behind the headboard now on that big wall and put one of the tiny living paintings above the actual bed. And I think the last thing left in this build is for me just to clutter up this table, and then we are going to move on to the screenshots. So yeah, that is it for this build. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. I did really enjoy building this, and I'm so excited to finally have get together in my game because it's been on the top of my wish list for a really long time, and building with it is so much fun. There's so many items in it. Like when you compare it to the amount of build items that we got in like the more recent packs, this one is so packed full of new stuff. It's really good. Anyways, now I'm just adding some last few toys to the little table, and now we're moving on to the screenshots. Now, remember these screenshots, and if you go to the gallery, just imagine this is the screenshots that you see, because the screenshots in the gallery are awful. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to give it a thumbs up and comment what you liked about it. If you're not subscribed yet, please do, because I'm trying to reach my goal of 300 subscribers by the end of May. So please, please, please help me make that happen. And follow me on Twitter and Instagram, where I always let my followers decide what the next builds are gonna be or what the next Let's Plays are gonna be. Alright, I'll see you in the next one. Bye!